We're on page 497.
497?
497, yes.
Okay, I'm there. Line number?
Even meditation mused on a narrow seat
E-
towards the end.
Towards the end. Okay.
Mhm.
I thought,
Even meditation
yes,
mused on a narrow seat.
yes, I remember it now. Yes.
Yes.
So we can begin.
Yes. Even meditation mused on a narrow seat, and worship turned to an exclusive God, to the universal in a chapel prayed, whose doors were shut against the universe, or kneeled to the bodiless impersonal, a mind shut to the cry and fire of love, a rational religion dried the heart.
Well, we have been seeing this all through this canto.
Mhm.
This meditation, musing on a narrow seat, the house being built with too close-fitting bricks and small ideals limiting the soul.
Mm.
So now we see it's very interesting that meditation is musing on a narrow seat. Interesting. Meditation is
Yes.
supposed to be so wide, so all-embracing, so universal. And here it's simply musing, not even
Mm.
meditating, musing on a narrow seat. And worship turned to an exclusive God. This is, of course, the great problem of the West.
Mm.
West only believes in an exclusive God.
Mhm. Yes.
Or even those rare sects, and there are some, there are the Amish and others. We could say that they kindly tolerate other faiths, but their God is still exclusive.
Mm.
It's still the number one.
Mm.
Now we see that the universal, which is a capital U here, referring to the whole, and Sri Aurobindo had that comment about the universal, where he says that universal may mean of the universe, cosmic in
Mhm.
that sense, but it may also mean common to all. This is a universal weakness, but you cannot say this is a cosmic weakness. So he was
Mhm.
speaking of the difference in universal and cosmic. To the
Yeah.
universal in a chapel prayed, but
Mm.
the chapel's doors were shut against
Mm.
the universe.
Mm.
But they kneeled, and then this is the opposite aspect, kneeling to the bodiless impersonal, not
Mm.
saying that there can be a personal God, as
Mm.
Sri Aurobindo tells us so clearly.
Mm.
Yes, he is impersonal in his transcendent realm.
Mm.
But as he goes from there to the cosmic, and finally from the cosmic to the individual,
Mm.
he takes on a personality for us, to help us, to help us
Yes.
move ahead, to grow.
Mm.
And there's a place where I have read that he writes in a letter on yoga, there is always the personal and the impersonal side of the divine and the truth. And it is a mistake to think the impersonal alone to be true or important. For that leads to a void, incompleteness in that part of the being, where while only one side is given satisfaction. Impersonality belongs to the intellectual mind and the static self. Personality to the soul and heart and dynamic being. Those who disregard the personal divine ignore
mm,
something which is profound and essential.
mm,
So now we see that the mind is shut to the cry and fire of love, and therefore a rational religion has tried the heart.
mm.
Please carry.
It planned it planned a smooth life's acts with ethics ruled, or offered a cold and flameless sacrifice. Mm. Yeah, I
Well, we
understand.
see that this entry into the inner countries, Ashwapati is meeting with many different planes of existence and the things that are happening on that plane. And I would have thought that the entry into the inner countries would be much smoother, which would be much more beautiful, but not
Mm,
so. It planned a smooth life's acts, but how did it plan them? With ethics rules. Wow.
mm.
So now I have to go, sorry, to the next page. I guess
Yes.
I'm in there. 498,
Mhm,
right. Or offered a cold and flameless sacrifice.
mhm,
It's almost as if there's a stoicism here
mm,
and there's no flame,
mm,
no flame of sacrifice, no flame of love.
mm.
So he's got a lot more to tell us.
The sacred book lay on its sanctified desk, wrapped in interpretation's silken strings. A credo sealed up in a is it credo?
Credo is correct.
A
It's
credo
a,
sealed up.
it's
What
a
does it mean?
Latin word. Credo is a Latin word.
Okay, a
And,
credo.
and in the churches, the credo begins, I believe in the such and such, and it goes on and on. It's a long credo. And so here
What is a credo?
it means I believe.
Oh, it means I believe. Okay, credo.
The sacred
Okay.
book, capital B book, huh?
Mm,
Be on its sanctified desk. Uh, Incredible picture Sri Aurobindo paints here. We see
mhm,
this desk that is sanctified that only the holiest can touch, and the sacred
mm,
book is laying on it. But
mhm,
it's wrapped in interpretations, silken strings,
mm,
how they interpret it. And then there's a colon because he wants to end it with a credo, sealed up its spiritual sense.
I understand. Yeah.
And now there's a little space, which always tells me we should give it a moment's thought of all he just said previously.
Mm.
And now there's a lot to read, so let's carry on.
Here was a quiet country of fixed mind. Here, life no more was all, nor passion's voice. The cry of sense had sunk into a hush.
So it's not at all a plane of energy. It's a quiet country, and the mind is fixed. It's not movable,
Mm,
it's fixed in its way. And life
mm,
wasn't everything anymore, and passion certainly was a voice that was not heard because the
mm.
cry of sense had sunk into a hush. And now our very powerful.
Soul was not Soul was not there, nor spirit. but mind alone. Mind claimed to be the spirit and the soul. Mm.
So in the first line of this new passage, Sri Aurobindo tells us it's a quiet country of fixed mind. And then
Mm.
he says, soul was not there, but mind alone. And now he's
Mm.
going to tell us more about this mind.
The spirit saw itself as form of mind,
Ah,
lost itself in the glory of the thought, a light that made invisible the sun.
it's incredible lines. First of all, we see that soul was not there. There's no soul there. Not
Mm.
even any spirit, but only the mind. And mind here is claiming to be the spirit and the soul. And even the spirit saw itself as a form of mind and even lost itself in the glory of the thought. And then this incredible line, a light that made invisible the sun.
Mm. Into a firm and settled space she came, where all was still and all things kept their place.
Yes, it's a place of fixed mind. It's a place where there's no passion, no sense
Mm.
of the greatness of the beauty of the light. So she comes into this settled space. Everything is still there. Everything is in its place. And now what happens?
Each found what it had sought and knew its aim. All had a final last stability.
Because everything is so fixed and so lost in its thought and its firm and settled space, each one, each being, each presence found what it had sought and knew its aim. They could say, we are perfect. All had a final, last stability. But now something's coming very important.
There one stood forth who bore authority on an important brow and held a rod. Command was incarnate in his gesture and tone. Tradition's petrified wisdom carved his speech. His sentences savored the oracle.
Yes, now you read the line, there one stood forth who bore authority.
Hmm.
I suppose one could read it like that, but the
Hmm.
thing that I'm finding in my uh, Savitri Sunday is that people are reading quite like that quite often. But
Hmm.
if we wanted to keep the iambic pentameter, it would be there one stood forth who bore authority. So it's there one. One is standing there.
Mhm.
You catch this very easily. Huh?
Got it.
And so
There one. Yes.
yes, yes, exactly. But
Mhm.
one has to realize that everything is not iambic pentameter, but the whole sentence, the whole line is iambic pentameter. But there are so many things of poetic uses,
Mm.
such as anapaests and other things that are used,
Mm.
because otherwise you'd fall asleep if you just read everything as iambic pentameter. Okay.
That's true.
So this one who stood forth is holding a scepter, a staff, a rod. And therefore, you have seen pictures of these, or maybe in the Catholic or other Christian religions, of the one holding the rod, which is a
Mm-hmm.
sign of command. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Command was incarnate, it was embodied, it was personified, typified in his gesture and his tone. And even the petrified wisdom of tradition carved his speech.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you now, carved his speech. His sentences savored the oracle, savored, derived pleasure from them, took pleasure in them. And now he's going to speak to Ashwapati.
To Ashwapati or to the mother?
Hmm?
To Savitri or to Ashwapati?
He's talking to this pilgrim of the inner world.
So
And he's
Savitri.
telling this pilgrim, Ashwapati, that you've been very fortunate to reach our brilliant air. And he even says that he knows he's an aspirant to the perfect way of life. So I feel it's
No.
definitely Ashwapati.
But on the next page, it says Savitri replied, casting into his world sight's deep
I'm
release.
sorry, Savitri, yes, of course.
Yes. Okay.
No,
Sorry.
I thought you meant it was the being from that plane.
Okay. No. I better go here. Traveler or pilgrim of the inner world, fortunate art thou to reach our brilliant air,
Yes, but that has to
beaming
be
with
much more beautifully. Fortunate art thou to reach our brilliant air. I need to have some feeling from you.
yeah. Traveler or pilgrim of the inner world, fortunate art thou to reach our brilliant air, flaming with thought's supreme finality.
Yes, what we have to remember is that it's Savitri going through this book of yoga and
Mhm.
entering into the inner countries. Book two was all of Sri Aurobindo's experiences. So
Yes.
now Savitri is called a traveler or a pilgrim, but what? Of the inner world. And so this being with the rod, speaking with such authority, is telling her that she's fortunate to reach their brilliant air because that air is flaming with thought's supreme finality. There's nothing beyond their thought which is supreme. And now he'll speak directly to her again. The whole thing is in double quotes. So it's all a passage of his speech to Savitri.
O aspirant to the perfect way of life, here find it. Rest from search and live at peace.
Can you do that?
Ours is.
Can you do
Sh-
that
sh-
much better?
yes. Should I continue for a few lines? Yeah, I'm yeah. It's fairly straightforward for a few lines.
Okay.
Um, because it's like two lines, then one line, then two lines. So maybe I'll read four lines together and then we can
That'll
go
be
over them.
fun. But I have to feel them.
Yes. O aspirant to the perfect way of life, here find it. Rest from search and live at peace. Ours is the home of cosmic certainty. Here is the truth. God's harmony is here.
Well, he's calling her an aspirant
Yes.
to the perfect way of life. And where is that perfect life? exactly here in this inner country. He says,
mm,
find it here. Rest from search. Live at peace. It, it's so important that we read each word here
mm,
so humbly and devotedly. This is a being talking to Savitri, a
mm,
being who has command. He knows the oracle of this plane of existence. He
mm,
has the command. He has the rod. He has the important brow, and he
mm,
stands forth with authority.
mm,
And so all of these things have to carry us into this quote from
mm,
this authority. And he knows that Savitri is something very special
mm,
because he knows that she's a traveler or even a pilgrim of the inner
mm,
world. See, traveler or pilgrim of the inner world.
mm,
And tells her that she's fortunate to reach their brilliant air. And
mm,
what is that air flaming with? Thought's supreme finality, nothing beyond thought. And then he calls her, O aspirant to the perfect way of life. Find it here, rest from search, and live at peace.
mm,
Ours is the home of cosmic certainty, cosmic certainty. And that's why we can't rush through.
mm,
Here is the truth. God's harmony is here. Now
mm.
he's even going to invite her to put her name in the book of the elite. So let's see what he says.
Register thy name in the book of the elite, admitted by the sanction of the few. Adopt thy station of knowledge, thy post in mind, thy ticket of order, draw in life's bureau, and praise thy fate that made thee one of ours.
You can't read that better.
Is it supposed? Okay, I can try. Let's try again.
He wants her to register her name first. He's
Yeah.
inviting her. He's not ordering her. He's not
Mm,
compelling her. He's
mm.
inviting her.
Okay.
Try.
Register thy name in the book of the elite, admitted by the sanction of the few. Adopt thy station of knowledge, thy post in mind, thy ticket of order, draw in life's bureau, and praise thy fate that made thee one of ours.
And draw in life's bureau? No. Thy ticket of order, draw in life's bureau. We wouldn't change
Okay.
the inflection
Okay.
of that word.
Thy ticket of order, draw in life's bureau, and praise thy fate that made thee one of ours.
Much better. Much better. Okay. Okay, now he's going to tell her what the mind can do here. And now I have to feel this again. All here.
All, all here, docketed and tied, the mind can know. All schemed by law that God permits to life.
We have to stop there because the time is late.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's the end of the page also.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So can you read the whole thing in a few minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Even meditation mused on a narrow seat and worship turned to an exclusive God. To the universal in a chapel prayed, whose doors were shut against the universe, or kneeled to the bodiless impersonal, a mind shut to the cry and fire of love. A rational religion dried the heart. It planned a smooth life's acts with ethics rule, or offered a cold and flameless sacrifice. The sacred book lay on its sanctified desk, wrapped in interpretation's silken strings. A credo sealed up its spiritual sense. Here was a quiet country of fixed mind. Here life no more was all, nor passion's voice. The cry of sense had sunk into a hush. Soul was not there, nor spirit, but mind alone. Mind claimed to be the spirit and the soul. The spirit saw itself as form of mind, lost itself in the glory of the thought, a light that made invisible the sun. Into a firm and settled space she came, where all was still and all things kept their place. Each found what it had sought and knew its aim. All had a final last stability. There one stood forth who bore authority on an important brow and held a rod. Command was incarnate in his gesture and tone. Tradition's petrified wisdom carved his speech. His sentences savored the oracle. Traveler or pilgrim of the inner world, fortunate art thou to reach our brilliant air, flaming with thought's supreme finality. O aspirant to the perfect way of life, here find it. Rest from search and live at peace. Ours is the home of cosmic certainty. Here is the truth. God's harmony is here. Register thy name in the book of the elite. Admitted by the sanction of the few, adopt thy station of knowledge, thy post in mind, thy ticket of order, draw in life's bureau, and praise thy fate that made thee one of ours. All here docketed and tied, the mind can know, all schemed by law that God permits to life.
Well, I'm sort of pleased you read better.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. See you next
All
week.
right. Yes. Thank you. Namaste. Be well. Bye.
Bye.